Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Ox and the Rat, the show where we put old tales to the test of modern times. I think I'd remember that a bit better by now. I'm your host, The Ox.
And I'm the Rat.
Hello, Rat. How are things over in your part of the world?
Well, we've got some developments from last week's episode.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If you're listening. So last week what were we talking about? We were talking about being too big for your britches.
Too big for your britches. All right. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was the moral. So anyways, last week I was saying, like, am I too big? Am I thinking too much of myself and that my coworker is annoying, or am I just being too picky or kind of an asshole or something? So turns out I have a new person sitting in the chair where that coworker used to be. So I don't know what happened to them. I'm guessing they got fired. But that kind of goes to show you that she kind of had an air about her that she was like, whatever, do whatever. Lackadaisical kind of attitude. Didn't do much work, just ate and talked a lot. So, I don't know. I'm guessing she got fired because a lot of her stuff was still in the desk.
Oh.
Or she quit. Either way, it's good for me. It's quieter.
Doesn't sound like an I quit scenario. More like we think it's better if you left.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't work there, but that's good news. I mean, I don't care about this person, so it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, it sucks for her, but better for me.
Yeah, well, what goes around usually. Actually, we said last week that it doesn't always come around, but sometimes it does. She's got the opportunity for some introspection, or conversely, the opposite reaction, which is the world's against me. Deep state.
So I wish her well.
Sure, yeah, whatever, man.
Good luck on your next venture.
Yeah. If you can always change, like I've said several times, so hopefully, assuming everything is, it's something that she's done, that she has the opportunity to reflect on it, make a change. I know I've had to do that myself. That's really hard, I think, for sure. I don't think that. I know that. I mean, getting people to reflect is like the hardest thing, for sure. Yeah. Well, on my end,
bottom. Yeah,
been there. On my end, things are the way they have been. Really slow at work. End of the year. As a contractor, it kind of sucks because when you do things efficiently, like I mentioned before, you run out of hours. So it's going to be a lean December, but I'm still focusing on improving like graphic design, photography. I downloaded GIMP again for like the fourth time. This time I'm actually going to use it, and I have been. I got some people at work who are going to help me with illustration and stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely going down that road. Definitely. It's not a matter of if, it's just how and when.
Well, I highly recommend Aaron Draplin's Skillshare. That helped me a lot with Illustrator.
Does Skillshare cost?
It does cost, but
what did you?
He might have some free things on YouTube as well.
What did he teach in? Or what software?
Adobe Illustrator.
Right. Yeah. That's the other.
So there's a bit of a delay here. That's the family crest that I made for you. That was one of the skills that I learned off him. That was a little project from his course.
That's cool. I really want to make my own brewing label. Actually got some beer brewing upstairs in the mash phase. But yeah, I mean that's good to know. Adobe the Creative Suite is a hurdle all its own, right? Because it's a paywall, and I'm poor enough as it is, and looking to move in somewhere in the next couple months now. So yeah, lots going on. But yeah, on that note, we've got an interesting fable here. I just pulled it up, and I love it. So let's see if you can guess it once it is told. Are you ready?
Yeah, quick hot tip here. Cyber Monday, Black Friday, good time to renew subscriptions online. I just got an extra 3 months for one of my subscriptions and a $20 US savings. So,
yeah, I thought about it. I mean, I'm getting a graphics tablet for Christmas. I got other things going on. Yeah, it's good. It's a good point. It's a good point. Anyways, this one's called "The Hare and His Ears." I love it. The Hare and His Ears. All right. The lion had been badly hurt by the horns of a goat, which he was eating. It's pretty silly. He was very angry to think that any animal that he chose for a meal should be so brazen as to wear such dangerous things as horns to scratch him while he ate. So he commanded that all animals with horns should leave his domains within 24 hours. The command struck terror among the beasts. All those who were so unfortunate as to have horns began to pack up and move out. Even the hare, who, as you know, has no horns, and so had nothing to fear, passed a very restless night, dreaming awful dreams about the fearful lion. And when he came out of the warren in the early morning sunshine, and there saw the shadow cast by his long and pointed ears, a terrible fright seized him. "Goodbye, neighbor Cricket," he called. "I'm off. You will certainly make out that my ears are horns, no matter what I say." Ooh, that one's fun. You want to guess the moral of that? That's a tough one.
I think this one deserves a recap.
Yeah.
So we have the lion who's eating a goat or sheep or something.
Yeah.
And takes a bite, gets scratched. It's like when you are chewing on some Asian food, and it's like a landmine or a grenade, basically. Like sometimes you get a bone shard.
Oh yeah,
hidden in there.
Remember that.
So anyway, he gets scratched, and then he's like, okay, everybody leave with horns, which is like, I would imagine, a lot of what he eats.
Mm-hmm.
So they, for some reason, they're sad about that and not like, all right, sure, bye. But then the rabbit was dreaming or something. It didn't really make sense. And then he woke up, he saw the shadow, and he's like, yeah, I have horns. There's no doubt about that. Nobody will believe that I don't, because it looks like horns, basically. That's
right. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
This is probably something about like perception is reality or something like that.
Very close. Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter what you think, other people may always see you differently.
Not bad. That's a tough one for sure. You gotta remember, these were all made back in the day, right? When life was a little bit more black and white. So this one's called, or the moral is, do not give your enemies the slightest reason to attack your reputation. Your enemies will seize any excuse to attack you. The first sentence of that isn't necessarily important, but the second one, do not give your enemies an excuse to attack you. So I guess in this case, the rabbit happened to have ears that could be used to say, "Oh, they're horns, so I'm gonna go kill you." What do you think of that one?
This reminds me. I can't think of anything specific, but it reminds me of when just somebody's in a bad mood, and if you just do something. It doesn't matter if it was a little joke or you say something. They can just explode on you depending on the mood they're in. Because you gave them a reason to attack.
I think about.
I do have actually. Okay, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. At work, we have a boss, and when I first got hired there, basically a lot of people said, "Oh, just keep your head down and you'll be fine." So it's kind of the same kind of idea, which I have done. I don't really do much out of the ordinary. I don't, argue with anybody. I don't make a stink about anything. Pretty easygoing. And you do see, I was hired with like a group of people, and one of the people in the orientation, the first or second day, he made this joke, just like a dumb joke, and she or he, I can't remember who it was, picked up on it and kind of let him know what's up. That was inappropriate and blah blah blah. That guy ended up getting fired or let go after like 1 or 2 months, something like that. So stuck in their craw, as it were.
Yeah, it sounds like cancel culture, doesn't it? I mean, if you don't like somebody, you can find any reason you seize on that one thing they said, kind of like what you said, to just get rid of them forever. And I mean, it's a really toxic thing happening in our society. I think, I think in job training too, with like DEI training, I've experienced a lot of it in the North American end right now. And whereas I think a lot of it's coming from a positive place, for sure. The intention is really good. In this case, I'm not talking about cancel culture, the intention being good, because you're not intending to do anything when you say you're gone and you can never come back. You're just trying to destroy that person. You're not trying to reform, right? So I think most of the attempts at DEI training, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is well-meaning, but kind of results in the same, like, don't do anything that could possibly be construed by anybody to be anything negative. I mean, the kinds of stuff they talk about a lot of the time is like, don't ask somebody. That's my dog. My dog might make some weird noises. She's doing some weird shit over there. She's bored. So, anyways, one of them I remember was, don't ask somebody about their age. I was like, really? Because that could be ageism. Don't ask somebody where they graduated from. This is common. And I guess I understand it, but it's really going pretty far. Like, the number of don'ts are pretty astonishing. And it makes you fearful, right? Because in today's culture, anything can be used as an excuse to say non-inclusive language, bias, racism, sexism, ageism. I guess that's true. That's really, really depressing thought. I think it's part of our fragile culture, right? Everybody's going to implode if you touch them, say anything. I don't know. That's my point.
Yeah, a lot of trigger warnings.
Yeah, everybody's triggered, right?
You gotta...
Good Netflix documentary.
Just own your age. Yeah, it seems like, some things, I get it, you might not want to mention, or maybe not even polite to mention, or things like that. But it does get a bit sensitive at times, you would think. I don't know. It's hard to say from the other end, from, say, like a race perspective or something like that. Like, we don't have any sort of, not really much of a, what should I say? Not much experience on that end other than living abroad, being on the opposite side, but it's still not as bad.
That was really important experience.
We can understand things like age. Yeah, but things like age or school, Really? Are you so insecure that you can't say where you graduated from?
Yeah, and that's the part you've just hit on right there. That one of the issues that's not being addressed is that these are all these like arguments, disagreements take two parties, and it just seems like everything's on. Like you're guilty until proven innocent, right? When we rail on examples of, there's so many examples now on like Netflix, Trial 4. It's a great one too. There's so many examples where, people were presumed guilty, right? And they did everything they could to make them guilty before, instead of assuming that they might be innocent. But we do it all the time in today's society because nobody wants to talk. Everybody wants to argue. We're on teams now. And nobody's aware or willing to accept their role in an argument, right? So you just said, well, yeah, coming from the other side, right? That person has a role too. You come into every situation, every conversation with a preconception, right? A history. And that's not bad. But it's kind of on you too to say, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And then to not destroy that person by going after them and saying how dare you, but to say that makes me feel uncomfortable, for example. Because now we're having a conversation, and then the other person could say back, oh, that's not what I meant, but now I understand. What we're moving away from so significantly, and it's destroying everything that I see in terms of conversations and understanding between people and parties is, the unwillingness, I'll call it, not even the inability, the unwillingness to accept a role in a personal role in things that you perceive to be bad, right? So not being willing to discuss or converse. Yeah. And it's cancel culture, man.
Yes. So do you have any did you give a specific one?
No.
About, it's kind of like that saying, the whatever nail gets hammered down.
Yeah, I can't remember that one, but that's a good one. I think for a lot of my career, I was the issue, and I did perceive things that way, which is why I'm speaking now about the need to change it. A lot of time I would see things as personal slights, and I had difficulties dealing with feedback. I still do. I try. Yeah. And it's difficult dealing with feedback in my current position, working with people from other cultural backgrounds. For example, people from Europe tend to be a little bit more direct than people in North America, right? So when you're getting feedback in a second language from somebody who's speaking a second language and, who's from another cultural filter, right? It's like, hey, you're getting pretty aggressive here. I didn't mean to do that. I'm not sure. Yeah. And but I have a role in that, right? I need to be more willing to say, okay, right? You didn't mean that. And I don't even need to ask them what they meant. I just need to start learning to accept things purely on the face of them. Somebody says this, I don't need to read into it. So that happens a lot. And I've been like that a lot. I mean, as a department head, I did a poor job of that. I was never good at giving feedback. I wasn't particularly good at receiving it as an employee either. And now I've had to become a lot better. One of the books that really has helped me, or two of them, are Habits of Highly Successful People. I think it's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And the other one, which is like a game changer, which I'd recommend to everybody, is a classic, absolute classic. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you heard about that?
Yep, that was the favorite book of one of the Hanson brothers.
One of the Hanson?
Yeah, from
like
that
music
smash
group
hit group.
How do you
Hanson.
know that? Seems like a
I remember
random
that
bit of
from
trivia.
Much Music. That's
Oh my god, Much Music.
yes. Well, yeah, it's intimate and interactive with Hanson.
Oh wow, intimate and interactive.
So,
Huh. I haven't even thought about that in years. It makes me think about pop-up video, which was my favorite thing.
All those things are so obsolete. Just seems like ages ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So what were you saying?
But yeah, the reason why I knew it and it probably stuck in my mind is because my dad had that book. Growing up, we had that in our little library. So I think around that time, near that time, I'd kind of like, I think I was a little embarrassed to be reading it because it seems like how to get friends is a little.
Oh, you read it?
Seems like a weird topic for like a teenager. No, well, this is what happened. I grabbed it to read, and I was a little bit embarrassed to be reading it, I think. So I stuck it kind of in our kind of bar area, and it just disappeared. I could never find it again. So that was the end of that book. Never read it.
Yeah, I gotta go back over it again. He had another awesome book, and whatever. I guess the whole point of it is to be. It's just to be helpful and to serve others. And that kind of takes away the edge of a lot of like who I am and, that perception to say, what do you need? How can I help? Customer's always right kind of approach. Customer's probably the wrong way to look at anybody, but it is a very transactional, transactional way of looking at things. And it's true how it focuses on like, just being helpful, for example, is a way it helps everything, makes people see you differently. For a long time, I was, I do all this, you don't do anything. What's wrong with you? Why can't you do what I do? And I remember somebody I know saying, you can't judge other people by your standards because maybe your standards are too high, or maybe other people have other things going on. So, good point. Hard to take in at the time. Obvious and aware of it now, and just trying to be of service to others makes a huge difference. Yeah. In terms of my professional career, I remember at the end of my last job, which you were at, I saw something that was clearly wrong. But prior to that, I had made enemies of certain people in higher places. And when I reported it, instead of it coming back as, this is bad, because nobody would take action on it, they seized on it to attack me. So, shame on them. But, at the same time, like, I made a mistake too. It's hard to take input from somebody who's always, waving a flag and saying like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So, it's like the boy who cried wolf to some degree. And when you make enemies, it'll come around to bite you eventually. I know that's one of the reasons I didn't get a vice principal job at another school. There was an opportunity there. That would have been huge. I might be in a different place today, but, I didn't have a great reputation. I'm not saying it was enemies, but, my reputation wasn't the best it could have been at the time, even though I may have been more qualified than somebody else who ended up getting it.
Maybe not ready at that point either. Perhaps.
Yeah. I think whether or not you're technically ready, there's the soft skills side of things that needs to be addressed, and a lot of jobs now are very soft skills based. I know that that's a huge part of my job. And being client facing now is such a switch, right? It's not just here are the things you need to do. It's like I need to find out the things to do, but I also need to develop a relationship with this person so that when we hit those bumps in the road, there's what's the word? There's more willingness on their part and more slack, right? To say, well, look, we've got to make a compromise. Yeah, big change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think emotional intelligence was number 7 or 8 on the top 10 skills to have for 2020 for jobs.
Yeah.
I think the number 1 was critical thinking.
God, I hate that word. I hate that. I hate it so much. I don't think that it's not a real thing. I just don't know that anybody knows what the fuck they're talking about when they say critical thinking. I hear it all the time in my it's like a buzzword, right? I find in my MEd it's like, well, we need to teach people to be critical thinkers, and then it's like, well, what does that mean to you? And I was like, oh, 21st century skills. Like that's, they just see these things. It's like it's like this book I just read, another awesome book. I'm throwing out books today. Lies My Doctor Told Me. And like how much we trust doctors, and frankly they don't know half of what you could know about your own condition just by doing your own research, right? Because they read the conclusions of studies, right? And the conclusions aren't always accurate, right? So people like see a buzzword, they're like 21st century skills. That's important. Somebody's told me it's important. Kids need to have these, right? You're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? How do you do it, more importantly, right? It happens all the time in my MEd, all the brown nosing that happens in there, but...
Yeah. Is there another book, Dead Doctors Don't Lie?
Is there another book? What?
Is that written by the same person, Dead Doctors Don't Lie?
Oh, no, I don't know what that is. I have to look it up.
Something like that.
But no, this one's written by Ken Berry, who is a doctor. I love that. That's pure honesty, right? It's the guy who unfortunately practiced what he was preaching against and owns up to it. So, I mean, honesty is important.
I lost my train of thought there. What was your last point before that?
That I've been a pretty awful employee at times, and I've had to learn how to develop soft skills to be...
Right, I remember now. Yeah, it's the critical thinking thing. You're saying, what is it? For me, well, at least what I'm going on is logical thinking. What I'm focusing on anyways, is logical, systematic problem solving. That's kind of the focus these days. So being able to like take things step by step, break a task down into multiple steps, and then be able to tackle each step in a systematic kind of process.
Yeah, and it depends where you're applying it, right? Like some people talk about critical literacy and talk about like it's about asking questions about everything. It's about this and that. So yeah, I mean, it's about not being passive. It's about, I guess, in most simplest sense, moving beyond the information towards the analysis and evaluation of it. Somebody says something. What were their goals? What were who's represented here? Who isn't? It's all stuff that we've known forever. We just give it new names and shit. Another reason I hate I hate pedagogy. It's like, well, we figured this out 100 years ago. It's all in there, and now we're just swinging. The pendulum just swings based on politics, right? Ooh, are we in groups now? No, we should go back to individual learning. Well, blah blah. No, we've always known that there's a place for both of those things. It's not new. Whoa, what should the curriculum be? What? Well, you know what? The curriculum, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Nobody knows. Nobody remembers what the fuck they learned. In high school, they remember skills. You remember tactile sensations, things you touched, did, made, presented, perhaps. You don't remember that PowerPoint slide that said X did Y on this date, unless you did something with it, and that's elaboration, right? We know how people study. We know how they learn. It's just politics that changes. So that's my educational rant for the day. But returning back to our enemies will seize any excuse to attack you. Yeah, I mean, for sure, that happens all the time. And look at Donald Trump now. Go back to the orange elephant in the room. What I loved was his attorney general, who's his partner in crime, right, in the Republican Party, who went along with everything, so long as they got what they wanted, which was power, policy, right? Laws. Now that it's clear that he has no route out, everybody's abandoned him. And Rob Barr, or Bill Barr, who's an awful human being as far as I'm concerned, a terrible attorney general.
Bad Barr.
Yeah, he just said there's been no fraud. It's just Trump screaming in the darkness, which is the way it always should have been. But people used him. That's what I love about this story. I hate how it's gone down and the repercussions. But the user got used, right? Now, hopefully, there will be severe consequences that will come to that man and to those people who used him. I don't know. Based on our last podcast, might not happen. But let's all remember that. This user got used. Like, everybody has every reason to attack his reputation now that they can unhitch themselves from his wagon, right? And they're attacking him and saying this doesn't make sense, right? This is absurd, whatever. These people he's put in power are now in power, and he doesn't have a way to get rid of them. Really, I love it. And it comes back around sometimes, but not all the way.
True. Wasn't Lindsey Graham like one of the first people to be like, "Good job, Biden, you win"?
Eventually. I mean, they all did the same thing when there was like, oh, there's a possibility maybe there's voter fraud, and then it's like, well, you got to come up with evidence, and then you see the pattern, right? It's like, well, yeah, we've got to maintain this illusion that something would have happened in case something happens, and then he's like, no, now you need to give proof. You can't just say it. It's like, no, there doesn't seem to be any, right? It's just diminishing, right? And now you've got an angry orange man with a month or so in power in the world's most powerful nation, and he's rightly been isolated finally, but that's after everybody's extracted value from him.
Now, last act prediction. What's he gonna do? What's his final move?
I would love to see him dragged out of the White House. That would be awesome. It's like, oh, I'm not going to leave. Okay, well, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. You can't just say you're not leaving. Yeah, I think there's a limit to how far his supporters will support him, and if they see him saying, like, I'm now in control, no matter what anybody says, I won't leave. That's why we have checks on power. It's the annoying thing about
Didn't he just sell a bunch of arms to some Middle Eastern country?
Might have. I don't know. What I do know is that he's actually under investigation at the same time by the same guy he appointed for potential bribery right now for pardons. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Like he may do whatever he does, but there are potential consequences here, and there should be. I don't know how this man has grifted his way through life, but I would love to see him dragged out by the Secret Service or whomever, whose job it is to remove a dictator. Yeah, I going back on it too, though, is like the Democratic Party and liberals in general have given people too much of a reason to attack them, because we often say, this is insane. Like, what are you talking about? That's not reality. But we're saying we're judging other people by our own reality, right? And so what we need to do to come together, and I'm not an American again, I'm just saying, I could see it. It happens everywhere. It happens in my MEd with liberals. My God, liberals are the worst, and I'm one of them. I mean, just these unthinking cats who just like everything's bad, right? Like, I hate these people, so I don't listen to them. I'm like, you're missing the point, right? Like, you give them a reason to attack your reputation by not listening to them and by proving to them the very same story that they've been told, that they don't care about you, they don't understand you. We're the only people that do, right? Come to us, we'll give you a voice, right? We need to figure out how to talk to each other. So I'll come right back around to our moral, and I will say that I fundamentally agree with this because I've been there. I've done it. I've seen it, and I've seen how the reverse, acting the right way, let's say, makes a huge difference. What about you?
Yeah, I've done it as well. I've been sensitive to comments, and I've avoided things because of this kind of knowledge, this moral. Yeah, so I agree.
All right. Well, as I begin this, this Wednesday morn, and you end your day, let's all think about ways that we can avoid being a hare. And also, don't be a lion. I mean, don't just look for things to attack, right? And don't give people at the same time a reason to be of service to others, and see how simple life can be.
A good message, well put. So,
Yeah.
until next time.
Auf Wiedersehen. 再见.
And goodbye. 再见.
再见. Goodbye.